Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, the state of business is our topic of discussion today, and we are talking to Sanjay Kulatunga, President of the CFA Society of Sri Lanka and a Director of Linear Wealth Management. Then, Asoko Besekar, Governance Consultant of Verity Research, gives us his take on the upcoming parliamentary elections. And we talk to TNS Lanka's country manager, Mihirani Disanayaka, for her analysis of TNS's recent island-wide survey. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to Benchmark, the Big Picture Business Program. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. The state of business is under the microscope today, and we have with us today the President of the CFA Society Sri Lanka, Sanjay Kulatunga, who is also the Director of Linear Wealth Management. Welcome, Sanjay. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
If we're just looking at things briefly, how do you view the prevailing business environment?
I think it's very much mixed at the moment. On one side, you have the physical stimulus that's have come in terms of the public sector employees getting so-called bonus in terms of a monthly allowance, and the tax rate also coming down, the pay tax rate from 24% to 16%. Together with that, the interest rates also have come down and consumption has significantly increased. So all that together on one side has, given a positive platform. On the other side, what has happened is the government spending in terms of infrastructure has slowed down considerably in the past 6 months or so. And also the private sector business have also followed a more wait-and-see approach. We can see that the project finance loans that are being given by the banks being much lower than what it has been. So I would say very much a mixed business climate at the moment.
This slowing down would be due to the temporary nature of the government at the moment and policy and things like that?
Not the temporary nature. I would say that when no business likes uncertainty, and at the moment we have had an election 6 months ago or so, and we are just going in for another election. So what we want is a clear set of policies at the end of the day. So most of the private sector would not take concrete decisions until they know what the government policies are going to be, and which sectors they are going to basically promote and which sectors they are not going to be that keen on promoting. So I would say that what is important is very much a stable political environment and a policy framework that is not changing on a regular basis.
So we are also seeing then quite a significant suite of risks. So if you look at sovereign, if you look at currency, if you look at political, economic, banking, if you take all that into consideration, what are the chief country risks that you see when it comes to Sri Lanka?
I would say at the moment, of course, goes without saying, is the political risk. No foreign investor would at this juncture invest until we are through these elections. And what we are hoping rather is that after the elections there will be a party that has a clear mandate to take economic policy forward. And I would say that is the key element that we are all waiting for. Apart from that, I would say debt to GDP is a bit high on the higher side, and although this has come down according to central bank figures, still these are things that we have to be mindful of, because every year the budget allocations, a substantial amount has to be kept aside in terms of meeting these borrowing, repaying these debt.
Now you are in the business of analyzing investment, corporate results, things like that. When you have seen all the new results that have come out, the latest results, corporate results that have come out. Are you encouraged?
Well, I would say that you cannot go by a single quarter results to judge them and say that we are encouraged. But in terms of the past few quarters, we have seen, a clear momentum. And although I think we still haven't had the June quarter, so going by the December quarter and the March quarter, although the March quarter has been a bit lower than the December quarter, we think towards the latter part of this year, we would see a better performance from the corporate sector for sure.
How are you seeing the public sector performance
In terms
of their quantifiable performance?
Public sector, as I said, the debt to GDP is quite high, and that is one area that we are concerned about in terms of government finances, how they will meet the budget allocations and the budget per se. But public sector very much is a factor of the next elections, and I think we have to wait for the elections to finish and then what the policies are and the next budget before anything can be really identified on that area.
There has been talk about plans to grow local market capitalization to $50 billion. We've seen 2015 April the market expand by 17% as opposed to the same period, 14%. If you look at that, what do you make of these plans? Is it feasible?
Just picking a figure and saying we are going to go to 50 billion will be a tall order. We are at the moment in the, I would say, close to about 22 billion in terms of market cap. And market cap is a function of the number of listed entities, and the earnings growth as well as the multiple. If you look at the listed entities, I would say that if we are looking at that kind of ambition to grow, we have to look at the state enterprises at a certain stage in terms of privatizing them. Not privatizing, listing them, and getting I would say investors to participate in those counters. But having said that, just bringing them and listing them is not the answer. There has to be some kind of management, relooking at the management, getting directors who are non-executive. Also, making sure that the governance and structures are in place so that the minority investor participates in those shares. That's on increasing the pool of companies. Then earnings growth will depend on the policies laid down by the government and also the company's future potential. Multiple will depend largely on the return on capital you're expecting. I would say that those functions have to be all in place to achieve a large market capitalization. I wouldn't just give a number and say let's achieve that. I would say we have to look at the entire picture in a holistic manner.
We'll continue that discussion, Sanjay, after a short commercial break. So, as promised, time for a commercial break. Now, when we return, Sanjay comments on stock market manipulation, Sri Lanka's FDI concepts, and also the country's monetary policy stance vis-a-vis our investment objectives. Do stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world, the future's got a whole new world for you.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Thank you for staying with us. We are discussing the state of business with Sanjay Kulatunga, the president of the CFA Society Sri Lanka. Sanjay, there's been so much talk, rhetoric, arguments, discussions about the stock market and the manipulation that has been going on. Is the stock market mafia still a thing? Is it a thing of the past, or is it still very much vibrant and alive?
Well, I think any market has a certain amount of speculation and, I dare say, manipulation. I mean, that's a fundamental characteristic of a market is you speculate on shares. So where the boundaries are the point, and whether there's a good regulatory mechanism to oversee, and that these boundaries are, like, you know, we work within a certain framework is what we require. I would certainly, I mean, go on record saying that if there is manipulation, it is an extremely low level. I mean, I work with the stock market. We invest in shares. I really don't see a serious problem in manipulation. But having said that, I think a good regulatory system is important, but a regulator who also understands the need to give a certain room for the stock market to evolve, and not to be overly regulating to the extent that speculation is also curtailed, because I mean, fear overtakes. I mean, there's too much fear on even to trade on a weekly, daily basis, and that's important, you know, in any market.
Do you feel the regulatory mechanism currently in place is sufficient? Does it need to be tweaked? Does it need to be looked at again?
No, I mean, there's always certainly room to improve. I think they're going to bring in new rules, do the laws up. I mean, those are all excellent ideas, and they should be brought about. I think, I mean, the governance and the regulatory mechanism has to be there, and more than, I mean, enforcement, I mean, what we need is an ethical framework and people to be self-regulating in a sense. I mean, it can happen. It's not that bad, you know. I mean, I think we always look at everybody as a crook, but I mean, but it's a horrible way to look at the society, you know, because we have decided that I mean, for past what we're used to, or given the political framework that we are in, or everything, to look at everything suspiciously, and I'm trying to be more positive.
Now, from January to May this year, Sri Lanka secured FDIs of about 6.9 million. However, we have been falling short of our targets constantly. How would you rate our FDI prospects?
I think you have to look at FDI in the context of what it does to a country. I think FDI is, I mean, equity FDI last year was about $875 million out of 1.5 billion total with debt taken into account, which is when you compare with Thailand, it is just 1/3 of what Thailand got last year, I'm told. But if you get, I mean, the FDI helps in technological transfer, get management skill going, and also improving the bandwidth and getting export markets for our products. All that is helped by FDI. I think what we have to realize is the companies who have been first to respect the FDI which has come into Sri Lanka. I mean, we have to make sure that our policies are not ad hoc, or we are not going to change them, and to make sure that we have the proper framework for FDI to come in, and then to promote. So there's a lot of room for FDI. I think equity FDI is what we really need for the country.
The central bank, in its June report, monetary policy review, said that it would maintain the standard deposit facility rate and the standard lending facility rate at 6 and 7.5%. Is the current monetary policy stance in line with realizing Sri Lanka's investment objectives?
The monetary policy has two elements to it. One is to fuel growth, and one is to basically have price stability. I think central banks have been able, central bank has been able to bring about interest rates into very low single-digit levels, which is positive, obviously, and also growth has been maintained. Even when you look at all the growth rates given, I mean, you know that it's 5% or above. So I mean, I would say that monetary policy has been well managed, but of course there will be interest rates pressure as you go along the way, and I don't think interest rates will be able to be kept at these levels. Also, don't forget the fuel subsidies will have to go, so those all will have an impact on it. While not, I mean, that being okay, I think on the if I say something negative, it's on the exchange rate. I think having a controlled exchange rate, probably for political reasons, I don't know, but might not be the clear strategy, and we are just probably going to burn reserves just to maintain, because when every other country currency is weakening against the US dollar, just to hold on to a strong rupee, I don't think in the long term will be of benefit.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks.
We've been discussing the state of business with the president of the CFA Society, Sri Lanka, Sanjay Kulatunga. On the other side, Anushan Selvaraja discusses and goes into depth with the surveys as well as other germane issues. Stay with us.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC. Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world, the future's got a whole new world for you.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. With elections around the corner, we decided to invite governance consultant from Verity Research, Asoka Obesekara. Welcome, Asoka. So we come to it, a great big battle on the 17th of August. Now, what are your thoughts on the caliber of candidates that have been nominated?
Well, the issue of caliber is clearly a subjective one, but it's clear that there's been a lot of discussion regarding things like educational qualifications, their sort of track record of being honest, These are important factors, and I think we had the March 12th declaration, which PAFRL had been really pushing forward, and you had all of the main political party leaders coming and signing the March 12th declaration, which is touching on things like not nominating people with criminal records, connections to particular sorts of businesses, all of these things. So I mean, politicians have clearly felt that it's important to nominate the right people, at least at the time of signing the March 12th declaration. The public now have to make the choice as to whether the nominations which the parties have put forward reflect that commitment at the 12th of March. And there may be a debate there. I mean, needless to say, it's not like there's been a wholesale change of sort of new faces, particularly amongst the two main parties. And one thing, if I'm going to leave caliber slightly to the side, but if you just look at the general composition, it's slightly concerning that between the UNP and the UPFA, it seems as though the national list candidates that they've put forward, only 2 of them are women. So 2 from the UNP and not a single one on the UPFA. So I mean, whether the rules of the game have changed a great deal is questionable, given the fact that there are these sorts of observations.
The good governance front is gathered once again, Ashoka. Now, has enough been done, or have we made much headway when it comes to the question of good governance in this country?
There are 2 schools of thought on this, I guess. On one side, the last government that we've had will say that they have achieved more than any other government has ever achieved in such a short space of time. But that said, there was a 100-day manifesto and many very bold pledges there. So it's progress has been made. The 19th Amendment was passed, obviously not in the exact way in which had been envisaged. Different people will point to the different fingers of blame in different places. Where things have taken place is that certain things regarding, let's say, getting back the independent commissions, all of those things, is going within the nuts and the bolts of the 19th Amendment. But if you were to look at some other big promises, so the National Audit Bill, the Right to Information Bill, the Code of Conduct, and even finally, this is something which is not very often spoken of, the Standing Orders of Parliament, which are really crucial in ensuring that Parliament takes a focus on policy level and financial oversight and all of these things of ministries. Those things haven't been really touched. Now, there will be excuses and fingers pointed and everything else, but these are big things which haven't been done, so there's still a great deal of room for improvement. But we should also be cognizant of the fact that the President's mandate carries on beyond this small period here. So it's important to maintain our focus on that. And now, let's say, even on issues like women's representation and the pledge to women, the President Sirisena made a 15-point pledge to women, which has been completely untouched or unspoken of across the media and by politicians and everyone else since January. So these are all things which need to be worked on, and so from the governance perspective, there's still a great deal to be done, but significant achievements already.
What, in your opinion, do voters need to keep in mind when casting their all-important vote?
Well, the way I view how a politician or a member of parliament functions is sort of at the local level and at the policy level. Policy level, I think more about how they function within parliament. Now, I think lots of people have an idea of what their members of parliament are doing for them at a constituency level, you know. But when it comes to the policy level and what they do in parliament, I think there's a slight information gap there. So in fact, what we're doing at mantri.lk is we are having report cards for every member of parliament to show what are the things that they've been championing, what have they not been doing, where have they been silent, all of those things. But ever more so, the thing that we're also doing is we are having district voting report cards. So on the 18th Amendment, on the CJ impeachment, on casinos, on the 19th Amendment, the people standing in the different electoral districts around the country, how have they voted in Parliament on this? So really speaking, in my opinion, we should be casting our vote based on how the MPs have also been casting their vote. So that's one key tool which we at Mantri are trying to give people, which hasn't been there in the past. But really speaking, it's really about understanding what you think a politician should be, and if it's something about how they function as national legislators, you need to have that sort of information, and going to mantri.lk will hopefully bridge that gap.
Thank you for joining us, Asoka.
With pleasure.
That was governance consultant from Verite Research, Asoka Obesekara. After a short commercial break, we will be back with the latest on the LMD TNS survey. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world, the future's got a whole new world for you.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now we take a closer look at the latest LMB TNS survey, and with us is the country manager for TNS Lanka, Mihirani Disanaika. Welcome back, Mihirani. Now, to start off with, just give us a brief overview of the survey, if possible.
This month we spoke to people about the state sector services. General complaint that we hear from the people in this country is about the productivity, efficiency of the state sector services. So we chose that topic for this month.
So how has the state sector performed this year according to the poll?
People seems to have positive reaction towards it. 60% of people who we interviewed believe that the performance of the state sector services have gone up, improved. This is probably coming from the fact that the empowerment of educated people for state sector entities is working towards making it better. However, another 1/3 of the general community who we interviewed believe that there's room to improvement.
Is there more confidence in the public sector, Mihirani?
There is seems to be greater level of confidence. Around 60 to 50% believe that the state sector can do better, but the concerning part is not that everyone believes so yet.
Where do respondents stand on the subject of corruption in the public sector?
Given there was many discussion about corruption in this country and eradication and reduction of corruption by many ministers and by the new government, we wanted to see these results. Just about 50% believe that corruption has reduced in this country, but again the other part of the people who we interviewed don't believe that corruption has eradicated in this country yet.
Thank you for joining us, Mihirani. That was the country manager of TNS Lanka, Mihirani Disanaika. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.